Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. We're going to begin with our first topic of the evening, which is campus carry. Our first question goes to the college Republicans. Why do students not have a right to carry guns on campus if they have concealed carry permits?
We believe that the reason that colleges have not allowed their students to have the right to concealed carry on campus, even when they do have a concealed carry permit, is firstly because of the lack of education surrounding guns and the violence that is supposedly because of guns. But we also think that if we add education to these colleges, if we educate these students on how to protect themselves, how to properly use a firearm, that allowing them to conceal carry on campus would actually cause a decrease in the amount of injuries and fatalities from school shootings that we have seen in the 21st century.
And the rebuttal will first come from the college Democrats. 1 minute to rebuttal.
All right, so the question is, why do we not have a right to carry guns on campus if we have concealed carry permits? So the answer to this is really simple. When you have a carry to concealed permit, that doesn't give you access to carry a gun wherever you want. There are lots of places where you can't carry a gun. That includes hospitals, government buildings, athletic events. And one of those places is a school campus. It's just in our laws that you're not allowed to have guns on those kinds of places because there are high volumes of people, and guns and high volumes of people don't mix very well.
And furthermore, we have a 2013 review from the FBI that says that since 2000, out of 160 active shooter incidents, only 7 of those were stopped by armed citizens, and only 1 of them had a concealed carry permit. And in several of these instances, the people that tried to intervene, armed citizens, were either killed, injured, or shot someone they didn't intend to. So we are not sure that actually putting more guns on our campus would decrease fatalities.
And the second rebuttal from the Young Americans group.
Well, I think the main reason that we're not allowed to carry weapons is because the university is focused on public relations. They want to have as many students come as possible. They want to alienate people. But I think that the fundamental thing is it's a publicly funded university, and it's an infringement of your Second Amendment rights to not allow people to carry concealed weapons if they have a permit at publicly funded institutions.
And a 30-second rebuttal from the College Republicans.
Just to follow up on something that was said by the college Democrat, would you rather have a shooter inside a school setting that shoots, however many students a shooter is going to shoot, and have no one in there with a gun? Or would you rather have the chance that a student with a concealed carry could stop that shooter? And I think most people would logically have someone in that room to help protect the rest of the students. Not to say that there would be acceptable losses, but that would definitely decrease the losses taken by that classroom.
Thank you. Our next question will come from our moderator, Chip Brown. Chip?
This question is for the Young Americans for Liberty. Is it right for a publicly funded area like a public university like Auburn to declare that they are a gun-free zone? And does that abridge the Second Amendment?
To answer yes, we do agree that it is against your fundamental right to not to be able to carry a gun on campus, especially if you have a concealed permit. The whole point of being able to go through the concealed permit process is to be able to make you a legitimate citizen that can carry a firearm, and to just totally block that process is just against your constitutional rights.
College Republican?
I mean, I would agree with what they have to say. If it's a state-funded institution like a college campus, then frankly they don't have the right to tell students that they can't have a weapon on campus. As opposed to if it's a, say Walmart, if they want to have a gun-free zone, I mean, they can do that because they're a private institution. They get to establish what comes into their own, their own domain. Also, I think it's a pretty poor idea to say, like, wave a banner that says gun-free zone, just because that pretty much says that there's a lack of protection on that campus.
so I just wanted to make clear that we don't believe that providing a gun-free zone would abridge your Second Amendment rights. What the Second Amendment gives you the right to do is the right to own a gun. It doesn't give you the right to carry a gun wherever you please. So it's not abridging your Second Amendment rights. To answer the Republicans' questions on wouldn't you rather have someone there to protect you, we don't think that someone who has a concealed carry permit would have the proper training to de-escalate and take care of an active shooter situation. Shooting at a couple of targets is not going to be enough. You're going to have thorough experience in that matter.
Yes, you have to be trained highly to have that to be in high intensity and high emotion situations such as these. And there's also, I'm sorry, one more time. But basically there's other public places such as police stations, courthouses, and stadiums where guns are not allowed. So due to this reason, we see that the unique context of each place has to be taken into account before considering the balance with your Second Amendment rights. It does give you the right to have a gun, but the context is important on whether it should be allowed there or not.
Young Americans for Liberty, you have 30 seconds to have the final word on this question.
Having concealed weapons on campus is not a taboo thing as people once think that it is. According to concealedcampus.org, there are already 150 campuses that have repealed their gun-free policies between the years of 1990 and 2012. And over those 20 years, there have been 1,500 semesters, spring and fall, and not a single result of violence or suicide attempt from that repeal policy.
Thank you for your responses.
Can I comment on the College Democrats' definition of the Second Amendment and how it doesn't?
We're going to have some more questions in this topic area, so.
All right, our next question goes to the College Democrats. You will have 2 minutes to respond. If the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, how does the average person tell the difference between the two when they see someone with a firearm in their possession on campus?
Okay, well, we kind of disagree inherently with that question. We don't believe that only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. Going back to our FBI report, they did an analysis of 160 active shooting incidents that occurred between the year 2000 and 2013. Out of those 160 shooting incidents, only one person stopped an active shooter that carried a permit. He happened to be a Marine, someone who's extensively trained how to use a gun and how to take care of a situation like that. Total 7 armed citizens stopped an active shooter, but not all of them had permits. However, 21 people stopped the active shooter without a gun. So it's honestly not necessary to have a weapon in this kind of situation. What it's really going to do is it's just going to make things more difficult for the police to handle. When they go onto a scene, if they see a good guy with a gun, they're not going to know themselves whether or not he's the bad guy. How are they supposed to know in such a short amount of time?
And furthermore, we have a source from an individual who was on the SWAT team and was also a Marine, and this is more of a quantifiable sort of thing, or qualitative, sorry about that. But he talks about how it's so much more than that they had to undergo monthly tactical training 4 times a year. They had to be recertified in their response mechanisms, and that it's a far cry from the 4 hours of training that are usually required just to have a gun on your hip. So we see that there's a difference between just having a gun on your hip for self-defense and responding to an active shooter situation. This is taking the job of specialized police and putting it into the hands of everyday citizens.
Young Americans for Liberty, a 1-minute rebuttal.
So, allowing concealed weapons on campus does not all of a sudden make the process of getting a concealed weapons permit or of getting a gun in general any easier. Allowing college campus carrying would not change the rules about how to buy and who can and cannot have a gun under certain statutes under our state and under our federal government. And there's no sorts of irresponsibility from a student having a gun. It's still illegal to have a firearm under the influence of alcohol or drugs or anything like that. Nothing like that changes just because it goes from more of a public street to a college campus.
And college Republicans, your 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, I still have to go back to the fact that I would rather have a student with a weapon that would be able to stop a maleficent shooter in a classroom than rather have nobody at all. Frankly, I think some of our first responders have to put it into the hand of the average citizen, because sometimes the average citizen is the first line of defense against a shooter. So, yeah.
By no means are we saying that we want to take the job of the great men and women that wear a uniform around Auburn University, that we want to put that job in the hands of students. We're simply saying, why can't the students help? When that great man in the back, those two great men standing back there, when it takes them 30 seconds to get to something that a student could have gotten to in 10 seconds, that difference of 20 seconds is a big deal when there's an active shooter on campus. So why can't the students help?
Thank you. And College Democrats, a 30-second response.
Okay, basically what we're saying is that students that are not trained to handle an active shooter situation will not be able to de-escalate the situation. If I am in a classroom and someone who happens to have a concealed carry permit wants to stop the shooter, I don't know if he's going to be a good enough shooter to actually get the guy. What if another innocent student is shot by accident? Like, there's a lot of room for error when you're not used to doing like a job like that daily. And another big thing is that when you allow concealed like open carry on campus, you're giving a much bigger liability to the university as a whole. So the insurance costs are going to go way up, and it would increase our tuition over time. So overall, it's really not a great idea to have open carry on campus.
Thank you. The final question of our campus carry section is from Chip Brown. Chip?
Thanks, Evan. So many mass shootings occur on college campuses, from Umpqua Community College in Oregon to Virginia Tech in Virginia. Let's move away from students a little bit. Tell me, do you believe that professors and administrators should be trained and should be able to operate a gun on college campuses? Oh, I'm sorry, this question is for the college public.
I don't think that a university can mandate that. However, I would think it's a fantastic idea. Now, I don't think that there should just be a gun sitting in a room like a fire extinguisher, because honestly, that might pose more of a threat to the classroom than not having one. But having a professor in the room that has their concealed carry is definitely going to protect the students, and it's going to offer another line of protection for the students. However, it'd be almost the same thing to have a concealed carrier in the classroom as a student. A concealed carry holder has to go through a series of classes in order to get that concealed carry. It's not just like they're walking into a classroom with a holster on their belt. I mean, there's legislation that restricts just anyone from having a gun on a campus.
I agree that the university can't mandate that the professors have concealed carry permits or if they have weapons on them in a classroom. But if a professor has their concealed carry permit, if the university encourages that with professors, is that not then going to make the students feel a little safer in class, that the man or woman that's in charge of their education at that time is also caring enough to help protect them if something were to happen?
All right, thank you. Young Americans for Liberty, you have the
See, we're talking a lot about the efficiency of whether or not a gun would be useful in a certain situation or in one person's hands over another, but I think it really is more fundamentally, is it right to tell someone that they are not allowed to exercise their Second Amendment rights in a publicly funded institution? I would say, piggybacking off of what they said, that if a professor wanted to exercise that right and go through the process of getting a permit, I don't see why the university would stop them, but I don't think the university should be funding or being involved with ensuring that professors do or do not learn how to operate a weapon in the classroom.
All right, and the Democrats have the last word here with 1 minute.
We agree that it should not be required for all professors to be able to go through this training. And first of all, is because, as we've shown through our evidence with our SWAT individual, we show how important it is to have that extensive amount of training, and teachers simply don't have that. And they have not shown that the training would be that adequate. And also, even if they did go through all of this extensive training, this is well above their pay grade. That changes the nature of their job. And we even have 2 instances at UT Austin where the Dean of Architecture left and a potential Dean of College Communications did not take the job, citing specifically the campus carry law. So what we see is that it would be a different question to answer if college professors should be able to, but we do not think that the university should mandate that. First of all, because that financial burden is going to fall on the students as well. So that money could go into investing more into making active shooter training mandatory and more widespread.
Yeah, just looking at, you're going to want to picture what a classroom would look like when a teacher is able to carry a gun. So if we were to implement that, the amount of training that the university would have to pay for would be immense, and to get them recertified every year would just be too much of a financial burden on the students. You also have to think about how it would affect how they teach in the classroom.
Thank you. We're going to move on right now from guns on college campuses to college affordability. Taylor has our next question.
Good evening. Our first question is for the College Democrats, and it is government obligated to ensure easier access to higher education through government student loan programs?
They are not obligated, but we do believe it's more beneficial for the government to do so. Because it will increase the income that is in their state, which is ultimately going to increase the tax revenue for the state, and also they have a more highly skilled workforce there that's going to contribute to the sectors and the type of businesses that will want to locate there.
Like I agree with Emily, like our government is not obligated to provide that money, but really it's an investment into your population. Studies have shown that like for every dollar put into the higher education system by our government, they get a return of $3. So this study also found that the initial cost would be repaid quickly of college. So by age 35, college graduates would have fully repaid their tuition. So basically, the value of a college degree has gone up immensely, and our government wants to invest in our population by providing that money. It's not an obligation.
I want to point out that study was California specific, but it does point to the dire importance and the direct correlation between investing in your people and the outcome that has for your state. There are great benefits on that. The return on investment is a 3-time return on that. So it's kind of undeniable to say that we should not be investing in these people, especially when their median annual workings will increase by $17,000, just the difference between having a diploma and a college degree. So that's great for the quality of life for each individual, as well as the overall culture of the state.
Thank you. Young American for Liberty, you have 1 minute to rebuttal.
So no, the government is not obligated to provide student loan access, as they were saying. I don't think that would be a beneficial thing. Part of the reason why college is so expensive is because of the increase of demand we've seen over the last 2 decades. I think if the government is involved, that would definitely make that issue worse.
Thank you. College of Republicans?
Yeah, so one thing I noticed is that using basic economics, you can see that scarcity adds value to something, and if you're just throwing degrees out into the workforce, that's not going to produce more jobs. That's just going to make all the other jobs more competitive, which, I mean, in the end, that might help. However, you have a lot of money that's going to waste. There's statistics that I can't cite right now, but there are statistics that say that the average college student average modern college student has a harder time getting a job immediately after college than a college student did 25 years ago, because college degrees were more rare back 25 years ago. So studies from Ohio State University nationally have concluded that there's no actual link between higher education subsidies and economic growth. So you just see wasted subsidies and people with degrees not necessarily joining the workforce.
College of Democrats, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, so the Republicans are saying that that the value of our degree has gone down because we're basically giving them out. That's such a flawed way of thinking, because in our society, a college degree has almost become a prerequisite to being able to get a good paying job. So basically, what the Democrats believe is that we should be providing this opportunity to everyone, regardless of what your family's income was when you were born. So if anything, we should be providing education to a higher percent of our population than by not giving out as many bachelor's degrees, because they think the value of the degree would go down.
Thank you. Our next question goes to the College of Republicans. Is affirmative action fair? You have 2 minutes.
Affirmative action is in no way, shape, or form fair. As a matter of fact, I would argue that it's racist, because it is allowing certain students to get a college degree over other students simply because of their race or their skin color. And that's not fair at all. Frankly, I think that no matter anyone's gender, no matter anyone's skin color, they should be able to compete for that degree. It shouldn't matter their background, it shouldn't matter their race. All it should matter is how much work they're willing to put into that degree. And that's how you're going to see a healthier workforce.
I agree with that, and in today's society, with all the political issues that we have going on right now, for instance, the Black Lives Matter protest, my question is, why don't all lives matter? And why does any skin color of any kind get any kind of special help to go to college and get this education that other skin colors, other races don't? Whether it be a minority or a majority, shouldn't we all have the same equal opportunity in America? Isn't that what America was all about, was giving everybody with different starting points the same opportunity to be just as successful as them?
Thank you. College Democrats, you have 1 minute to rebuttal.
Okay, I think the Republicans, said our stance best when they said that there should be an equal opportunity, despite how you're born. And the difference here we're saying is that when you don't have affirmative action in place, you are ignoring the historical disadvantages that have put certain groups of people with less of access. And we agree that how hard you work should reflect, or it should translate into the opportunities that you have. And when you are working that hard, but then you have all of these things that are in our society that are against you, that are institutional, whether it be housing opportunities, educational opportunities, job discrimination, we see that we have to make up for that. And in response to their All Lives Matter, it's not that we're favoring one over the other, but I have an example. At a breast cancer rally, there aren't people yelling at us more. Both matter, but you have to address the issues that affect certain groups of people.
Just to comment on that, not everyone in America is born on third base. Like they said, people start out with different starting points in their lives. So someone who's born into a poor education system end up being stuck in a vicious cycle of poverty because they can't get education to get out of it, but at the same time they're stuck like where they are because of the bad education system. So this just gives a vicious cycle, and one of the only things that would help them out of it is affirmative action.
Thank you. Young Americans for Liberty, you have 1 minute as well.
Well, affirmative action is not fair because you're not basing the decision-making off of the merits of the individual applying, maybe for a job or for school or something. I think it's a strange thing to assume that the opportunity to achieve these things would not be there without affirmative action. I don't see why affirmative action allows more opportunity for minorities than not having it. I think if companies want to operate using affirmative action, there should be a problem, but I don't support any kind of law or mandate saying that a company should have to hire this certain percentage of a certain minority simply because they want to look well.
Thank you. College of Republicans?
Yeah, I think that modern day culture is so tightly bound poverty in certain minorities, which again, I think it's pretty racist. Not all white people have white privilege because they were rich during the 1800s. One time I asked my grandfather, I said, Granddad, did we have slaves? And he abruptly responded, son, we were so poor we probably were slaves. And I think that so vividly describes that not all white Americans are more privileged than any other minority. I mean,
Skin color has absolutely nothing to do with where you started and the opportunity that you had.